STL Sports Central is presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, Randy Karraker, and the Cardinals will try to get back on the winning track in Milwaukee, Wisconsin this evening as they take on the Brewers in the first of a four-game series. Cardinals swept by the Blue Jays yesterday at the ballpark. Not great. You get the early lead, and then all of a sudden Nolan Gorman with an error to open the door in the fourth inning set up an unearned run against the Cardinals starter Matthew Liberatore. And Liberatore, not great. He allowed 8 hits, 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 runs overall. He walked a couple and did allow a home run. Only, Matthew, 13 of 25 first pitch strikes. That has not been where he has been most of the season. And you wonder how much of this, he came out of his last start with the fatigue. I wonder if he's lost a little bit of command with the fatigue issues.
Yes, and that was kind of my big thing, because if you look at his previous starts, there's a lot of 15 for 21 in first pitch against batters face, 15 for 21, 17 for 23, 18 for 25. It just seems like he wasn't placing, and I wonder how much of that was him going up against, as Ali Marmol talked about, and as we've seen in the articles, the Blue Jays do not strike out. They are the best in the Major League Baseball at not striking out. And when you have a pitch for contact team, that means they're going to put the ball in play. And the more often you put ball in play, the more often good things happen. And I think that's just how it happened. I wonder if Liberatore was trying to paint the corners a little bit to get a very studious lineup to maybe chase something less hittable than usual. And he just lost out against a good lineup.
I think in a short series, Toronto could be a problem for teams, including the Yankees, in the American League, because as you mentioned, they get their bat on the ball. Their bat-to-ball skills are the best in all of baseball right now. They have some starting pitching. They don't have the best bullpen. They could use some bullpen help, and they play defense. There's a lot of things going well for them. We didn't see Kevin Gossman, who I think, if they were going to start a playoff series, would probably be their number one starter in Toronto.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that. And I wanted to take a look, because obviously you have the Blue Jays. How problematic could that be for you? But the Padres are the third best team in Major League Baseball at K rate. Diamondbacks, Mets, and Cubs are all in the top 10, as are the Phillies. The Cardinals, by the way, 7th ranked in the league. So I'm just highlighting some other top teams in the NL that maybe in a similar fashion could be problematic for the Cardinals come October.
Oh, and
all the teams are good.
Here we are. There they are. And the Cardinals have lost 4 in a row. I just look at the situation now as problematic. And this doesn't mean the Cardinals are bad, but here you've lost 4 in a row, and you're going to Milwaukee, where just recently the Brewers were on quite a run. They've cooled off a little bit, but they're always tough in Milwaukee, and the Cardinals are not playing their best ball. They need to clean things up a little bit defensively, and they obviously they need to put games together. When you lose the 10-9 games, when you had the game where you hit the home run in the 9th and then wind up losing in the 8th inning rather, and wind up losing it in 10. They just need to start playing clean ball. You can beat anybody if you play clean ball, but that has not been the case over the course of the last 4.
I also think this is the difference between, if this is them regressing towards the mean after incredible May, and part of that is now losing a couple of 1-run games. And if it's the difference between them being a +8 team versus a +4 team, I'm not really surprised by that, because it's a fine line. But I was still wondering. In fact, the exact way I phrased it to Brendan Schaefer last week, a week from yesterday, I believe it was, when he hosted with me, was, do you believe that this Cardinal team can win 88 to 89 games, essentially be +8 on the season? And I still doubted it to the point. So now them still being a +4 team, which is what they will be as they kind of continue to regress. They're +6 right now. It wouldn't shock me if they are still just an 84, 85 win team. That seems exactly where, even best case scenario, this team should be this season.
I just wonder if the regression of Ryan Helsley is the regression of the team, because you talk about losing 1-run games. He's blown 5 saves. He's blown 3 in this recent stretch of the Cardinals struggling. And he's another guy that he's done it for 1 full season, and closers are strange. You never know if closers are going to be able to work out for a whole season. When you lose 1-run games and your closers blowing leads, that is an issue. So that might be the regression to the mean for the Cardinals. Another part of it is, you've got some injuries now. You've got Walker, you've got Donovan out, you've got players. You don't really have a red hot guy that is carrying your club. I don't even know if the Cardinals have that guy on their team right now. Perhaps Contreras could carry the club for a week or two, but I don't know if Arenado at this stage of his career or Contreras are guys that will carry the team for a couple of weeks stretch of the schedule.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, but I think there is room to still worry about the offense in a game like that, where again, you're right, no Walker, no Donovan, so your lineup isn't operating 100%, but you get 2 runs early in the game and then just really nothing materializes after that. I think that and it's been a couple games now where if you look at the totality of the last 2 or 3 weeks, the numbers are starting to drop off a little bit. Bernie on STL Sports Central both wrote about it and did a great video about it that you can check out right now. So I understand the worries some people have about the offense because that's always been my thing is that I just need to continue to see consistency if they weren't ever going to have the power factor. And so a game against the Blue Jays where, again, they dodged Gausman, or a series against the Blue Jays where they dodged Gausman, and yet it didn't seem like they couldn't consistently get things going at times. And the punches would happen. Mm-hmm. They were crucial, obviously, but a little bit too late in game 2. It was just a little bit disappointing not to see anything happen after the second inning.
And I do think that consistency will come. Your most consistent hitter is Brendan Donovan, right?
Yes, out of your lineup.
And he's not in your lineup. And your hottest hitter, Jordan Walker, was not in your lineup. So I'm not ready to say that the offense is good or bad. It's still an offense, and Oli Marmol admits this, that there are guys that are still at a stage of their career where they're learning how to adjust to the adjustments made against them. This is not a finished product. This is not a fully baked team. This is not a team that is marinated for a long time. These guys still need an opportunity to play on a regular basis. So, yes, this year, you're going to have your ups and downs, but this year is so that hopefully in future seasons, players will be quicker to adjust to what other teams are doing against them. And the other point that needs to be made, the fact of the matter is, even when Jordan Walker was hitting well, and he certainly hasn't reached his peak yet, but John Mozeliak said he was their second best prospect to Albert Pujols since he had been there. He didn't look anything close to that. I would suggest that for stretches of time, Matt Carpenter, maybe not in his third season, but maybe, I guess in his third season, Carpenter was better than Walker in his third season. Alan Craig was better than Walker in his third season. So Walker and he's a lot younger than those guys were when they were playing too. But my point here is that the Cardinals don't have a real centerpiece player. There's not one on the way. And at this point, it doesn't look like any of their young guys are going to be that guy where you put him in the middle of the lineup and say, okay, that's the guy I want at the plate in the 9th inning when the chips are down. The Athletic just did a poll of players, the player that you'd least like to see hit at the plate in Game 7 of the World Series. And the Cardinals don't have any of those guys.
No, unfortunately not. I will say, though,
and that's from a pitcher standpoint. The hitter that you'd least like to face, by the way, in Game 7 of the World Series.
Just a little ray of sunshine, as we like a little sunshine and lollipops on the show, don't we?
Yeah.
I just, every once in a while, I dive into the numbers on Mason Winn, because if you're a Cardinals fan, if you're feeling down, oh, they lost 4 in a row, just go look at Mason Winn's baseball reference page, or his baseball savant page, or his Fangraphs page, because it's so pretty. I mean his hard hit rate's up, his line drive rate is up, his ground ball rate is down, his walk percentage is up. He's hitting a 110 OPS plus, 10% above average, doing what he's doing defensively. His OBP, his on base percentage is up by 25 points. His batting average is up by a couple points. OPS is up as well. I mean, other than the fact that they're not running with him this year on the base path, which is unfortunate. It makes me sad. Little things like that are important to think about during a 4-game stretch that we're not going to be talking about in October, but we are going to be talking about what Mason Winn has developed into as an above average hitter and Gold Glove shortstop, and the value that kind of player has.
Yeah, I look at a lot of guys on this team and I say, okay, that player, I can envision him being a really good player for a really good playoff team. Mason Winn is one of those guys. Donovan is one of those guys. Trying to figure out whether or not Victor Scott is one of those guys. I don't know if Nootbaar is that guy as a leadoff hitter, but I think Lars Nootbaar is one of those guys. It could be a good player for a winning team. I think Pedro Pajes is one of those guys. I think Herrera is one of those guys. You'll notice that I haven't mentioned a starting pitcher yet. And I do think that Liberatore theoretically could be one of those guys. But when the Cardinals are ready to be a playoff team that is a World Series contender, Michaelis isn't going to be here. Matz isn't going to be here. Fetty isn't going to be here. Sonny Gray has 1 year left on his contract. Is next year the year, and is next year a year where you think you can count on Sonny Gray being a front of the rotation starter for a playoff team? I don't think he can. At that, he'll be 35 next year, right? He's 34 now. I don't know if he'll be that guy next year. So Liberatore right now is the one guy that stands out. That's why we need to see McGreevy, and I know that we've talked a lot about McGreevy, and we've got a lot of chats about Michael McGreevy, but you need to see Quinn Matthews make the jump. You need to see Tekoa Roby make the jump. And maybe that's where the Cardinals need to either make a trade or spend money. I know that Sandy Alcantara actually has been very good in his last couple of starts. If you're going to make a trade for a starting pitcher, there's a guy under team control for a while that at a very reasonable price. Now, will he cost you something? Will you have to give something to the Marlins that you don't want to give up? Yes. But if Alcantara is effective, I think he's the number one front of the rotation guy.
And to that point, reading Katie Wu's article yesterday, or maybe it was early this morning in the Athletic, she was talking about that and dove into it. And to your point, I think everything you've been saying about the trade deadline realistically is correct and is going to override any potential for something like Alcantara, which is they're going to make a budget deal to get the back end of the bullpen, another arm or something along those lines. We're probably not going to see them swing for the fence, even if it is for a young player like a Sandy Alcantara who would conceivably have a long runway to join the rest of the runway. I just don't think, based on what we've seen from the Cardinals, I just don't think they're going to risk any potential. They're not going to risk 4 or 5 darts to throw at the board to get one.
Well, and what they have to determine then is who in their organization can be a number one starter, because they've said for years that McGreevy is not one of those guys. Maybe Quinn Matthews is. Hopefully we'll find out during the season, but I don't know if you have enough runway left in this season to find out whether or not he is. Palante doesn't appear to be a front of the rotation guy. Maybe Roby is, but he's never been healthy. Wouldn't it be nice if you're the team, and granted, Alcantara's coming off Tommy John surgery, but wouldn't it be nice to have a guy in your rotation that has won a Cy Young Award already? And granted, it was in a pandemic year, but has pitched in the playoffs already at a pretty high level.
Yeah, I love it, but I just don't think they're going to pull that trigger.
I think he's 30. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's a little too long in the tooth.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's a little long in the tooth. Come on now. He'll turn 30 in September.
Yeah, I think I would. I don't think that's too old. That's 4 or 5 more. He's got 4 years left on his contract, I believe. I would be willing to roll the dice, depending on what you have to give up for a guy like that. But I think the Cardinals, if one thing, and I know that times have changed.
Do you think that what would be realistic for that pitcher that we've seen on the market would be something that they would entertain giving up, based on what we've seen from the reporting?
Well, and the question is twofold. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. Does John Mozeliak want to go out in a blaze of glory?
Right? Oh, God, what an opening salvo, Randy. Yeah. That's fantastic.
All right, fair point. Okay, Mr. DeWitt is approaching his mid-80s, right? Does Mr. DeWitt want to win one more before he goes to baseball heaven?
Oh my God.
What? Come on.
I'm trying to think how Brooke would have reacted to that.
Oh, yeah. It wouldn't have been great. But then the other part is, if you're Chaim Bloom, you say, okay, I've watched this system for 2 years. I know what a number one starting pitcher looks like. If I determine that I don't have a number one starting pitcher in my system, do I pursue an Alcantara or a Gallen if they're on the market? Because I know that they can be front of the rotation guys, in Gallen's case for a World Series team, and in Alcantara's case, a Cy Young Award winner. They have to determine what the talent level is, and they have to determine where they want to go. If you want to build a World Series team, or and I know a lot of you have complained over the years, all they want to do is get to the playoffs and then hope. you can get to the playoffs and hope with what you got, but I'm still of, and I know I'm old school here, I'm still of the belief that a number one starting pitcher is a pretty good thing to have if you're in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it would be a pretty big factor into their ability to win longer series. Mm-hmm. And again, it's looking like if a team just doesn't strike out, you can't, and they work counts, they'll eventually get you. And I read off the teams who are in the NL at the top of not striking out, and it seems like there's a good chance you're going to have to play one of them in 5 or 6 or 7 games.
Yeah, there you go. Novel in the Lou. Can Robert Blake Edwards coach pitchers? Jaime should clean house. Get real coaches and manager. Well, we've lost 4 in a row. Hey. This is
freaking out.
Thing.
Why don't we?
Hey,
good Lord.
Namal, I am not going to shoot down your comment because I know that has my confidence level in Oli Marmol and his coaching staff risen since the start of this season? Yes. But am I convinced that once you get to a postseason that he's going to make the moves necessary to win games and not take out a starting pitcher who's gone 5 1/3?
Oh, you're still just, you haven't, you can't forget Jose Quintana.
That's my playoff history.
That's fair.
Right? That's my point of reference.
And he's doubled down on that being the correct move, or is he, I can't forget if he's, he admitted that was a weird one.
No, he still, I think would have made that move again.
I kind of like that.
Yeah. So
like sticking to your guns.
I'm not going to completely dismiss, and that's another reason. You know, Matthew, we've talked a lot about players having runway. Don't you kind of think that Marmol and the staff are getting runway this year too?
Ooh, that's a good point. I think so. I think they're kind of winning their runway. If I had to say, I think they're proving themselves. They're doing a good job of coaching. You might not like the in-game moves that he makes in crucial moments, the decision he makes. But to Marmol's point to you, a year or two ago, he was part of a coaching staff when a different manager was here that helped build one of the best defenses in baseball. Mm-hmm. And now he's built, again, one of the best defenses in baseball. So say what you will about Oliver Marmol's ability to handle a game. I'll let you have an opinion on that. I think it's fairly objective about whether or not Ali Marmol can coach the fundamentals of baseball to major league level players. I think we have an answer on that one. And the answer is he's a pretty damn good X's and O's fundamental baseball coach, on the backfield before and after games. We can have a conversation about X's and O's in games. I'm not as honed in on a yes or no there, but I mean, the guy knows how to coach baseball players. There's no doubt about that.
And he's got a group of good teachers with him. There is no doubt about that. We also got a chat. And let me get to
Mark Stussey's calling Sonny Gray a number 3. Come on now, let's be a little bit objective, people. Come on.
At the moment, and maybe next year he's a number 3, but at the moment he's a solid number 2. And the thing about Sonny Gray, and I've said this forever, Matthew's been with me ever since the Cardinals pursued him and signed him. It's still June. And Sonny Gray, for whatever reason, is a different pitcher in the latter part of August and September. The numbers bear it out. And so, yes, in June, he can be even a front of the rotation guy. But things seem to happen when he goes through the heat of the summer. I believe that he does wear down. Okay, this is the real third man one. Cardinals can't afford a number 1, nor should they, nor is it even worth the cost, not since the 60s. Well, number 1, Joaquin Andujar was number 1. Cardinals had him. John Tudor was number 1. Cardinals had him. They had both guys on the same staff, both 20-game winners in 1985.
I feel like for what they could have gotten him, Max Scherzer would have been worth it.
Yeah, and no doubt about it. And they admit that they whiffed on him. And then Chris Carpenter was clearly a number 1. I mean, he was the best guy going. He won a Cy Young Award, and the Cardinals were able to afford him.
But we would criticize that move now, or not we, but I think the fans would burn. Like there would be pitchforks if the Cardinals move to get a ace was to trade for one who is about to be out for a year because of an injury.
Who's that? Who are we talking about? Carpenter?
Yeah. Wouldn't right now, if that was like the long plan to get the ace, we got to get a guy who's going to go through a huge injury first. I feel like people would react very poorly to that.
But they didn't give him a bunch of money.
That's true.
So it was just, that was a throwaway with the hope that he would be great. I remember Walt Jocketty telling me before they got him that they really liked him. And by the way, Mo liked him. And they actually tried to trade for him, and then he became a free agent, and they got him. Matheny was the guy that originally turned them on to Chris Carpenter because Mike caught Chris Carpenter in Toronto.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
And so that's how that all came about. And hey, the Cardinals don't have that person to evaluate a pitcher now. Want to go back, though, to not being able to afford a starter. Now, you have to make the right deal, okay? And you aren't probably giving up. Okay, let's think about this. Okay, Nolan Gorman stays hot for another month and a half, okay? And you get to July 31st, and the Marlins want a guy like Gorman, who's been hot now as a centerpiece of an Alcantara deal. Alcantara due 17.3 next year, and then a team option for 27 at $21 million. And you have left-handed hitters. Apparently Chase Davis is very close. So you've got that left-handed hitter on the way. You've got Weatherholt on the way. Not big power hitters, but then you've got Donovan here. You've got Nootbaar here. You've got Burleson here as left-handed hitters. So, and Gorman's the centerpiece. He's not the only guy, but he's the centerpiece. And Alcantara has to stay healthy and keep making quality starts. That's something that I would look at seriously. And I said that a few years ago about Dylan Cease on the radio. That would have been nice. That was one of the guys that I would have traded Gorman for then was Dylan Cease.
That would have been nice. We're getting some chat.
Would you be on board getting a number one and having to give up one of your left-handed power hitters? Power hitter.
I was going to say
Gorman is the power hitter. One of your let's just say one of your left-handed hitters.
Yeah, if I can get a pitcher right now for Nolan Gorman, I'd do it. But I'm not getting that. But
and we're looking a month and a half down the road.
It's going to be Nolan Gorman plus. You're going to have to give him some other kind of potential boost because I mean, if we were talking about a bigger name than Gorman, I would say no. And so to get the pitcher you're talking about, I think it would have to be Gorman and another young player or a bigger name than Gorman. So I'm going to go with no.
Okay. And I just look at the recent history of trades. I don't know who's going to start. Maybe somebody will with a better prospect than that for Alcantara. Now, when you look at what San Diego gave up to get Juan Soto, trades do happen for guys, but I wonder what the market for Alcantara is going to be.
Fair enough. We're looking forward to the 4-gamer against the Brewers that starts tonight. Sam Thomas calling it a quote-unquote separation series. And he says this feels like the first one we've had this year. I feel like Toronto had the potential to be. Maybe we're just kind of glossing it over because we feel bad about it now. But your thoughts on the idea of a separation series here against the Brewers?
Well, the Brewers have been hot, and obviously they're in the division, and the Cardinals have not played many teams in their division so far. I don't know if it's a separation series. I think it's more of a knowledge series. We find out more about what the Cardinals are and more about what the Brewers are and more about how these teams compete against each other. Matthew, I kind of think we're at a stage now where the Cardinals have kind of given us an indication as to what they are, and the Brewers have too, and they look really similar at this point. I don't know that these teams, I don't know that this series, let me put it this way, will tell us how dramatically these teams will be separated once we get to September. Because I think they would have to play games here, and the Cardinals have been really good at home this year. And I don't think that we really know what the Brewers are. What's Yelich going to wind up being? Are they going to get healthy? Are they going to get healthier pitching back?
Kind of hard to know what the Brewers are going to do at the deadline now, isn't it? Their organization's a little chameleon. Like, are they going to trade away another reliever that breaks the entire roster, or what have you?
And we also don't know the severity of the Donovan injury. If the Cardinals play a whole weekend without Donovan and Walker, it's hard to evaluate them.
That's a very good point. I love this chat earlier from Troy Walls, who I'm sure is a very big Cardinals fan based on his chats, but I just wonder if he hasn't seen a lot of Cardinals baseball lately, because he says, surely we can beat someone making their MLB debut with our ace on the mound. That's never broken bad against the Cardinals
It never
before.
has. No.
I can't say I know too much about Jacob Mizraowski, the righty
Hard thrower
who's getting these starts against the Cardinals tonight. Hard thrower?
Yeah.
I like that. A righty, hard thrower, Gorman in the lineup. Hello, 415-foot moonshot.
Yeah, it could happen.
Where's my DraftKings pick 6, Randy?
Oh, let's do that. Hey, you know what? You need to know about DraftKings pick 6, because if you want to do well with the ability to make a few bucks, go to DraftKings, where the crown is yours. The promo code is STL Sports. And if you have not used DraftKings pick 6 yet, here's what you need to do. Download the app, use that promo code, and they'll give you $50 in free bonus bucks when you spend your first $5. And all you need to do is pick a couple of players to do higher or lower than what you think they're going to do. So, for example, if Nolan Gorman is at half a home run, and you think he's going to hit one, you go with Nolan Gorman to go higher on half a home run. And then if you go with Mizraowski, and I don't even know if they have it on pick 6 today, I would guess his over-under on strikeouts will probably be 3.5. Go over, because he's 4.5. So go over with those strikeouts for Mizraowski. Not that the Cardinals are going to lose the game, but I'm intrigued by that idea.
I'm going to go with more on 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs for Mason Winn, because I was just pumping his tires. And I'm going to scroll on down. Can I get a more than 0.5 home runs for Nolan Gorman? Oh, they don't have that one available, or I would have been hammering it. So I'm going to go with we're going to go with Lars Nootbaar to break out of his little funk right now. We're going to go more than 6.5 batter fantasy points for Lars Nootbaar. I like that one. And then we're going to go with Jackson Chourio. I do think he, if anybody, will get a single against our boy Sonny Gray. So I'm going to go with Mason Winn having a solid game, Lars Nootbaar shaking off their cobwebs a little bit, and Jackson Chourio getting a single against the Cardinals. And that's going to get me 5X on my original wager, Randy.
Love that. This gives you an opportunity to really enjoy the game in a different manner. Again, download DraftKings pick 6. Randy is telling you it's a lot of fun, and Matthew's telling you it's a lot of fun. So that means it's a lot of fun.
I really hope they add the
DraftKings pick 6. STL Sports is a promo code. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, so the U.S. Open is underway at Oakmont Country Club. J.J. Spawn is the leader at 4 under through 14 holes. J.J. Spawn is in the lead. Gary Woodland is alone in second. He's played 11 and he's 3 under. Then Ludwig Oberg is -2. He is lurking along with Si-Woo Kim. Thomas Dietrich is at 2 under as well. Thriston Lawrence is also at 2 under, and then Rory is playing at 1 under at the moment. And we get a chance to talk to our friend, the great PGA Pro, who also has a book out. It's Jay Delsing, who joins us on this Thursday before Memorial Day. And there he is, the one and only Jay Delsing. Good morning. How are you doing?
Hey, boys. Good morning. Great to see you. I am doing great. It's the run up for Father's Day weekend, and we got the U.S. Open. I mean, life is good.
And let's start with this, because Father's Day weekend is the biggest book weekend of the year. And if people haven't, especially golf people, haven't found the perfect Father's Day gift, it's the book that you have just released.
Yeah, well, that would be great if they're desperate and they need something. My book would be, I think it would be fun for them to read. I've gotten some really great comments. It's been, and thank you for mentioning it, Randy. It's been really, really rewarding. Will Salisbury, my buddy, encouraged me, and we wrote the book together. And it's really fun. I've been getting a lot of positive responses. And so, yeah, thank you.
There it is. The name of the book is You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You. Okay, I want a couple of anecdotes out of this. One, where you were in a tournament and driving a courtesy car and driving 75 miles an hour. Take us through this story.
Well, my buddy Steve Pate and I were playing in the Memorial Tournament at Jack Nicklaus's event, and he just, you guys, when you go and get the opportunity and you're fortunate enough to play at the Memorial, it was an invitational, so it was a smaller field. Normally we'd have either 144 players or 156. This one would have like 90 players, and everybody got a courtesy car, and everybody had, you get there and there's 5 people to do the job of one person. And anyway, Steve Pate and I are going down to watch a minor league baseball game in Columbus. And we're just talking. And we were just talking. And I was driving like I do now and not paying much attention. And we get pulled over by one of Columbus's finest. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how fast I was going or whatever. And the guy, the officer walks up and we roll down the window and he says, I said, officer, he goes, do you have any idea how fast you were going? I'm like, I really don't. I wasn't paying much attention. I know I shouldn't tell you that, but that's the honest truth. And he said, look, we appreciate that you're here. We love the Memorial Tournament. We love Jack Nicklaus, but you can't just drive by us going 75 miles an hour and think we're not going to pull you over. And I'm like, I'm really sorry. I never saw you. I'm kind of an idiot. Thank you for letting us go. And we had a good laugh at that for the rest of the night.
All right. You need to pick the book up, whether it's for your dad or not. Just pick up the book and read it. Great stories from Jay Delsing. The name of the book is You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You.
And to that point, Jay, I mean, just you open the book and you look at the table of contents, and I'm going to go in reverse order here from the prologue backwards. A Kid from North County has a book, and the 2 previous chapters to talking about being a kid from North County is an introduction by David Faraday and a foreword by Jack Nicklaus. How does it feel for you, again, a kid from North County now, to have a book out and for those 2 legendary names for golf just to be connected to your book? How does that feel?
Oh, amazing, Rock. It's just crazy. I mean, someone said, how in the world did you get Jack Nicklaus to write this for you? And I said, I just asked him. I mean, he was so kind when he was visiting St. Louis. He's doing the Normandy Reimagined project. He's also involved with the Stiefel Charity Classic. And so we got to kind of reconnect. And then I had Barbara on the show, and Jack was kind enough to come on to my golf show that Danny Mack and I do. And we just kind of reconnected a little bit. And his main handler is a gentleman named Scott Tully, who is just a great guy. He married a St. Louisan, and so Scott and I have always had a lot to talk about. And when this came about, he's like, Jack would be glad to do it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, because when Will and I were putting this together, we thought, who can we get to write this? And we're like, well, we might as well start at the top, and then Faraday's is just absolutely hysterical. I mean, it's definitely an R-rated version of whatever that is. But, whenever David talks, you never really know what you're going to get. It's other than pretty interesting and pretty unique.
And Jay, if people aren't aware of it, I'm sure they are, but we can reiterate it here. You and Danny Mack on 101 ESPN every Sunday morning, and a podcast as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a local show here in St. Louis, so it's 8 to 10 on Sunday mornings. And then we have a national show that's in 50 markets and 64 affiliates. It runs around the country. So we're lucky, man. We get to talk golf and cut up a little bit, and actually hopefully help people with their games a little bit, and break some of the things down. We've added an underdog segment to our repertoire. And so I picked Sam Burns last week, guys, to win the tournament. I do a little thing on Wednesdays on my YouTube channel, and I was never so glued to a playoff in my life. I'm like, come on, Sam. And the broadcaster kept saying, this is the best putter on tour. And I'm like, stop saying that, because and unfortunately he kept missing putts, and Ryan Fox hit an absolutely beautiful 3-wood in to win the tournament. But so we're having some fun too. The underdog segment is really fun. I don't know if you guys have done any of that, but we have a promo code J24. We can get you some extra money, but the prop bets are so fun. I mean, today you can bet on Scotty Scheffler's opening score, over and under on number of birdies, bogeys, how many fairways he hits. It's a lot of fun if you're a golf geek like I am.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, Jay, before we get to the U.S. Open, and I do want to, at the end of this, we'll revisit the book because I want you to talk about the book one more time. But I thought of you a couple of weeks ago when the PGA Tour, before the PGA Championship, tested Rory's driver, and it was found to not be within specifications, and he couldn't use it anymore. And then he came out and he played terribly. And I remember, I think it was the first Ascension, right? Charity Classic, where you broke your driver head and had to play the tournament with a different driver. And I was around you. You didn't seem to be out of sorts. How did that affect you when you had to go with a different driver head?
Well, it's interesting because let me explain a little bit about what happened with Rory. So, guys, because the modern day player hits their tee shots and hits the ball so hard, and the golf ball itself is so much harder than the old school ball, the faces actually start wearing out. And part of one of the regulations in these rules is the thickness of that face has to maintain a certain level. And everybody's driver will eventually wear out and become, non-conforming. But it wasn't like Rory said to the manufacturers, make me an illegal driver or anything. It's not like anything like that. So there's nothing nefarious going on. But what winds up happening is through use, it becomes, out of outside the rules. What happened to me, Randy, is I'm kind of a fossil when it comes to changing my equipment. And I was playing in the Pro-Am, and I'll never forget, I hit a drive off of the 11th hole. It was our second hole on the Thursday Pro-Am. And my buddy Pearlie was caddying for me. He goes, did you hit that well? And I said, yeah. And the ball flew just real peculiar, low, and kind of had a lot of curve on it. And so when we got to the 13th hole, for me to hit my driver again, I hit it and I'm like, something's wrong. And I looked down at the face and the face had cracked. And so now the driver is completely useless, needs to be thrown away. But what's cool is it happened while the tour is in town. So I called my friends at TaylorMade. And by the time I got to the 15th tee, 2 holes later, I had the latest, greatest equipment. And they're like, what do you think of this? Because what's neat is, guys, is I took the old shaft from my old driver out, popped it in a new head, and it was great for me. I'm not as I'm not nearly as good as Rory, but I don't demand as much as they do either. And so you guys, when those guys are trying out equipment, they are hitting and they are hitting and looking for very, very specific traits that this driver does. Mostly they got to love the way that it feels when they feel like they make a good swing. And if it doesn't perform, it doesn't matter. They'll keep going and looking for new ones. And Rory was really out of sorts about the whole driver thing at the PGA. I think he was, I forget, one of the other players that inadvertently, I think it was Scotty Scheffler, had inadvertently told, the media about it. And that's why Rory wound up not going to the media during the PGA Championship. And it's kind of Rory's kind of in a weird spot, guys, with just now winning the career Grand Slam and getting that massive gorilla monkey off his back at Augusta. And now we got to start wondering what's his motivation and what's that look like? So there's a lot to talk about there.
I mean, just how important is it for golf to continue to have a big name and a face like that? I mean, obviously you had the Tiger era. I know that's a big talking point. Does Scotty Scheffler just the winning factor of him make him the face, or does golf still need a guy like Rory to kind of be the person front and center as the face of the sport right now?
I think they need our sport thrives, Rock, when we have a dominant figure, and Scotty Scheffler is it. Scotty Scheffler is the best player on tour right now. No question about it. What America doesn't love about Scotty Scheffler is the way he goes about it. He's so calm. He's so down the middle. He's so unexcitable. He's not like Tiger, who's running across the green and looking down at you like a gladiator, and what people love, in my opinion, about Rory is that he's so unrelatable in certain areas and then so relatable to the average golfer and others, because he stands there at Augusta on the 15th hole and hits a 7-iron 209 yards over water to 4 feet from the hole and then misses the putt. And, everybody can relate to them missing that putt. That sort of stuff really didn't happen when Tiger was around. And so I think the way that Rory the flaws that Rory has in his game, like you guys, the U.S. Open was his to win last year, and on the last 4 holes, he misses one putt inside of 30 inches long and another putt Now, the putt on 18 was not an easy putt to make, but he still missed it, and it was very, very makeable from about 4 feet. So I do like having Rory in the game. I love his talent. Something to me seems amiss over in that camp right now, and I'm not sure what it is, but his talent's unmistakable. And it was great to get to see him win the career Grand Slam.
Jay, you know who I have grown to think is very likable, and it's a shame he's on live, is Bryson DeChambeau. You know, I think that he handles the galleries really well. I think he handles the media really well. Unfortunately, he's kind of irrelevant there on the live tour, except for the majors. But that's of all the guys that are on live right now, I think that's the guy that the PGA Tour could probably use the most.
Oh, Randy, 100%. I got to tell you, even before Bryson kind of changed his image publicly, back in 2016, I was on the Fox golf team that did the U.S. Open there at Oakmont, and one of the days I had Bryson DeChambeau. Guys, he had these little metal binders of cards on his golf bag. He had 2 of them, and they each had 50 cards on there. There were all these different shots and formulas he uses to do these shots. And I was kind of looking at his equipment and just kind of trying to be inconspicuous, but try to get some information. He came over to me, took his hat off, shook my hand, said, "Mr. Delsing, I know you're going with us today, and if there's any information you need from me," and I'm thinking, first of all, this kid is wonderful. Second of all, I don't even know what to ask you. I'm not smart enough to know what questions to ask, but because he's over there with all of these different, he tackles the game of golf in a way that never has been done before from a scientific aspect. But watch his YouTube channel, guys. His Breaking 50 segment is wonderful. Making a hole-in-one over my house. He has really separated himself in that kind of digital world. And I would love to see him back on the PGA Tour. You're right, Randy. He's, of all the guys, I mean, think of the guys over there that have jumped, that have gone irrelevant, like Brooks Koepka, like Cameron Smith. You guys, Cameron Smith was on the front door of getting into the Hall of Fame. He wins the Open Championship. He wins the Players Championship, and then jumps over there. And I couldn't tell you if he's broken par once this year. So Bryson is he's figured out a way to carve this other kind of niche for himself, and I love it.
Jay, looking at the U.S. Open today, I know it's early, but one of the names jumped out to me at the top of the leaderboard, Gary Woodlawn, because he obviously has a U.S. Open already under his belt. Is there something to a kind of golfer who's able to just manage what the U.S. Open is every year, and does that give Gary Woodland an advantage this weekend?
Well, having won a U.S. Open, having a U.S. Open trophy rock on your in your trophy case is a huge accomplishment, and yes. It kind of takes all that doubt out of your mind. You've got a guy. So the thing about the U.S. Open, guys, is it stresses your game at every point. If you don't drive the ball well at the U.S. Open, forget it. You're not going to be around for the weekend. If you don't hit your irons well, if you don't put the ball in the correct side of the hole, if you don't putt well, if your short game's not well. But then most of all, as you combine that whole package, you need to stay really, really patient, because you're going to get punched in the nose. It's going to happen. And so you see these players that kind of pop up, especially early in the U.S. Open, like a J.J. Spaun. Here's a guy, look at the point list for the Ryder Cup. J.J. Spawn's right in the middle of it. If he has a good week this week, he can almost guarantee himself a spot on the Ryder Cup. And if you went to the viewing golf public, guys, they wouldn't know who J.J. Spaun is. And so Gary Woodland is a great guy. He's a good friend. He's a Midwestern guy, someone to root for, because he's had this brain tumor that was not malignant, but struggled with recovery from that. And you're looking at guys that really control the ball off the tee. They need to really putt well, and they need to be tough. You need to be tough to win the U.S. Open. Hale Irwin is a guy that comes to mind. He's won 3 U.S. Opens, as tough a competitor as there is.
Jay, and Oakmont is a bear all the time, and apparently it's even worse now For people that haven't heard, 5 holes that require a 250-yard carry just to get to the fairway. Number 8, the 289-yard par 3. Shane Lowry is 5 over after 13 holes. You've got some other guys. Cameron Smith is +4. Phil is +4 through 12. It's just going to be a brutal weekend for a lot of these guys, isn't it?
Oh, it really is. I mean, watch what happens, you guys, when you after you make the cut on Friday and you look at the scores, you'll see the back end of the field 20-something over par. I mean, there's a relief to making the cut, to knowing that you're going to get paid for the week and things like that. But any part of your game that's lacking, this will hammer it. I mean, if you're not good around the greens, if you're not putting well, I mean, you're going to see balls putted off the green. You're going to see balls coming back into areas that a player, will get out of position off the tee, try to advance the ball maybe too far and put it on the green and wind up putting off the green and things like that, because the Oakmont greens can be absolutely impossible.
And to your point, I was looking at this. Adam Lowry was hitting his fairways, 8 of 10 of his first fairways, and was +6 because his iron was bad and he had a couple bad putts. He did have a fantastic chip at one point, but nonetheless, it just shows you that even if you have one part of your game dialed in, any part slips and you're +6 in day one.
Well, guys, one of the things to look for too is that if you are hitting the fairways like he was, watch where he's putting the ball. That's going to tell you how much control he actually has in his game. And when you get on the wrong side of the hole, even if it's a 10-footer, good luck. I mean, it's defensive putting all the way along. And when you can put that kind of doubt in the best players in the world that put it in their mind, you're going to see some weird stuff.
Hey, Jay, with obviously Scotty is a prohibitive favorite, but I know that you look at this and you analyze tournaments. So from your perspective, is there a guy who's playing his game now, whose game matches up as much as of course a guy can match up to what Oakmont delivers?
Yeah, without being in their room and actually talking to them to see where they are, mentally and things like that. Russell Henley is a guy who's had a great couple of years. He's playing extremely well. He's right on the verge of sealing a Ryder Cup spot, and he's got that sort of game. He's extremely tough. He drives the ball well. He's not, guys, I don't think you're going, this golf course in particular does not suit the bomb and gouge. And what I mean by that is, the best 2 players in the last 25 or 30 years, Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods, hit less than half of their fairways. So this is a guy, J.J. Spahn is a guy. He's not short by any means, but if he's on his game, he's got a chance. Now, the pressure of getting over the hump and winning a major championship for the first time will be intense as it comes to the weekend. But Russell Henley is a guy that I have circled this week, guys, because he's just that guy. He's tough. All aspects of his game are really, really good, and he's really been trending in a good direction.
All right, we will keep that in mind. Okay, the name of Jay Delsing's book is You Wouldn't Believe Me If I Told You, and you can get it anywhere you get your books, whether it's at Amazon or any store, or you can get it at your website, right, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to mascotbooks.com if you like, guys. You could go to jdelsinggolf.com, or you can go, Randy, as I call it, the cartel. You can go to Amazon and get it there too.
There you go.
Amazon's a lot of fun to work with.
So, and you write in the book about your dad and the impact that your dad had on you, and then obviously your daughters. Just give us an idea, and I don't want to make you cry here, but how important this holiday, Father's Day, is to Jay Delsing.
Oh man, well, you're a dad, and it's just a special feeling to have those people in your life that you care so much for. When my friends were having kids before I did, Randy, you may have experienced this too, because Rock, I don't think you're there yet, but they started having children, and I'm like, what in the heck is happening to these guys? There's just a difference about it once you have this responsibility as a parent. And then my dad was just a great guy and a sportsman, Major League Baseball player. And so he was very, very influential in my life in so many ways. And so, you want to kind of carry on a tradition that you can be proud of and that you can be part of. And as your kids, start having children. My oldest daughter called me the other day and she said, Dad, how did you do this? How did you try to play, travel, parent, work, whatever? And I'm like, you do the best you can. Some days are good. Other days we don't want to talk about, you just try to do the best you can. But it's a special day, Randy. It makes me reminisce about how much I miss my dad. He's been gone now for 20 years. And I think about him still almost every day. And so it's for me, because of the professional golf, Father's Day will always be associated with the U.S. Open. And it's always special that way.
And your last U.S. Open was at Pebble, right?
No, I played in 46. I qualified for the U.S. Open at Wingfoot in 2006.
Okay, yeah. Good. What was the one at Pebble? You had a chance, right, at the one at Pebble?
I did. Pebble was 92 the year Tom Kite won. I got off to a phenomenal start. I think I was 4 under after 7 holes, and all of a sudden the wind started blowing, and I limped in like a car with 2 tires and no gas. I think I triple bogeyed 16 and bogeyed 17. I was really, really close to qualifying for Augusta if I could have made some pars coming in, and that didn't happen. I'm almost over it. That was only almost 40 years ago. I'm almost over it.
Almost over it.
Not quite.
Oh, man. Hey, it's great to hear your voice. Great to see your face. Thanks so much for the time. Have a great Father's Day weekend. Best of luck. Continued success with the book and with the show and podcast. Great to hear that everything's going well.
Thanks so much, boys. It's great to actually see your faces, hear your voice, and be with you too. Thanks for all the kind words.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay. Have a great one, man.
That's the great Jay Delsing talking about the U.S. Open and the book. You wouldn't believe me if I told you it's a great book. You'll love it. So,
yeah, it looks fantastic. And again, just I love the local stories. I love how humble he is. And just the fact that, again, he's writing a book about his life story. And he gets 2 of the biggest names, respectively. Arguably, you could argue,
Costas too.
You could argue the biggest name in golf journalism and the biggest name in golf helped him. Did forwards on his book. Yeah. You can't get better than Nicklaus and Faraday. It's incredible. And again, you got Bob Costas chiming in with a hilarious little anecdote. I love that comment from Costas.
It's very fun. Hey, if you're looking for a great place for lunch on a Thursday, head on over to the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. There you see 701 Rudder Road in Fenton, Missouri, 63026, just a couple of minutes away from the soccer park. So you say, Randy, why Thursday? Because Thursday they have gumbo. That's their soup of the day at the Fenton Bar and Grill on Thursdays. And man, they make the best gumbo you will ever have. It is absolutely delicious. It's savory. It's spicy. It is wonderful. And you'll feel like you're in Nolans when you go to the Fenton Bar and Grill and have their Thursday soup, the gumbo. But check everything out. We want to get a little soup and salad, maybe get that gumbo with their chicken Caesar salad. It's absolutely delicious. And maybe you want to get something to pick up. They have spectacular burgers. They have very tasty wraps. Their chicken Caesar wrap is one of my favorites, with grilled chicken, fresh romaine blend, zesty red onions, the Romano cheese with Caesar dressing. It is absolutely delicious. And you know why we send you over to the Fenton Bar and Grill? It's because of those. It's those trashed wings right in the middle of the screen. That one is being applied with some signature golden sauce. It's fantastic. And if you want to get a little ranch dressing, you can get that and enjoy it as well with your trashed wings. The greatest trashed wings that you'll ever have are at the Fenton Bar and Grill. I'm a regular there. Hope to see you there soon. And I hope you will join me and check out their great lunches, great dinners if you want to have a business lunch over there. And if you're playing golf, you want to stop by for the great happy hour, enjoy some of their great happy hour items, 6 each, 6 appetizers, each $6, mini tacos, their fried dill pickles, their spicy cheese curds. Those are fun and delicious. The breaded portobello mushroom strips, pretzel bites, and fried green beans at the Fenton Bar and Grill. When you get there, tell them Randy sent you, and learn more at FentonBarandGrill.com.
You know what my favorite parts are one, you can get seasoned fries for $1 more, which I love. Seasoned fry.
Yep.
Always need the seasoned fry. And also, not only do they trash the wings, but they do a trash chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
Which also, if you like me and you love the idea of Nashville hot chicken sandwiches, but you're a pansy, you can't handle it, then you get a trash chicken sandwich at the Fenton Bar Grill, and it's the exact perfect level of heat. Fantastic.
Fantastic. Okay, a lot of talk these days. It's interesting. We never talk about Mark Walter, who is the CEO of the Los Angeles Dodgers. We talk about the great job that Andrew Friedman does and Dave Roberts. You know, the one franchise where we hear more about the owner than anything else, their manager or their GM, is Bob Nutting in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
Just doing such hapless work in having that team win. I mean, you look at the Cardinals, they screwed their organization up and never finished as badly as the Pirates do every single year. I think they admitted, they said, hey, we lost our way here. We plugged too much money into the major league roster and not enough into our development system. And the Cardinals still have never been as bad as the Pirates have. And there are some bad ownership groups in sports. I think, as much as I like Michael Bidwell, I think we can fairly say bad ownership, right? Not good at all. I think that if we look at some of the basketball ownerships over the course of time, we can find some that are really bad. But I think right now, if you look at, even though the Knicks got good, James Dolan is the guy that fired Tom Thibodeau. So when you are a national,
Jerry Reinsdorf
has
been screwing around with the Bulls and the White Sox for years now,
right? And so when people know you as an owner, as a bad owner, that's a kind of a negative. It's a pock on you. And so when people talk about bad owners, and you get like people that are really prominent talking about bad owners, that tells you how bad ownership is in a particular site, right?
Yes, exactly. And I love it when people finally speak out, because, and I talked about this on this show a few weeks ago, small town Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, smaller towns, when those ownerships suck, I want that person almost literally tarred and feathered.
Almost.
And yet
not almost.
Almost.
Not literally,
almost,
just
not
almost
literally. Almost figuratively.
Unless for one guy in LA.
But when it's James Dolan or somebody like that, then there's a comedy level to their errors that I do enjoy laughing at. But not when it's in a smaller market where you just people. I mean, again, it comes down to people don't have much to do. So what your sports team means for a person's everyday life is larger in certain markets than others, and you need to have a respect for that, I think.
So we've got one of the biggest sports podcasts in the world talking about bad sports owners.
That when that happens in sports, where an owner would be like, well, we got to move because the fans don't support us. No, you've been like gutting the team and gutting the the city for years and years and years.
Yeah, because you can make money as an owner with a bad team.
Yeah.
And so a lot of owners are just like, I want to see my investment increase. I don't really give a shit about the product. That's always bullshit.
Did we talk about it on this show? I can't remember if I think they should have a new rule in all sports that call it 5 years. If you don't make the playoffs in 5 years, automatic sale.
I like that.
Like whatever the threshold is, that would be awesome, because relegation is never going to come to American sports. But if you could relegate owners, that would be sick.
That's probably for the same reason not going to come to American
Of course,
sports.
it's not. But I'm just talking about dumb rules that I'm going to start. Next time we have a commissioner on, I'm going to start saying it to him. But like maybe not playoffs. Maybe you have to be over 500 because obviously playoffs are tough to get to in certain sports. But some type of rule that if you don't field a competent team once at least every 5 years, you automatically have to sell. And maybe, you know what, we say that you have to sell like 15% off.
Or you get suspended as an owner.
Whatever it may be.
You don't get to hang out in your suite. You have to pay for it. If you're an owner and your team doesn't make the playoffs in the first 5 years, you have to sit in the stands.
Right.
You're not allowed to sit away from the people.
I love everything about that. And one of the reasons I brought it up is because, of course, Kroenke would have gotten two different like slaps on the wrist, because
in 65, man,
there were a 9-year stretch without anything relevant or competent levels. And if you talk about a lack of playoffs, we're talking about 04 to 16. So that's 12 years. So that's two full 5-year stretches plus other years. Shouts to the boys at PMT. Pardon my take for standing. I love this comment. I wish they would have named exact situations where we could have penalized teams, specifically Stan Kroenke and the Rams ownership from 2005 to 2004 to 2016 would have been the perfect candidate for a little retribution against bad ownership.
Yeah, you look at the Browns, right? They're hideous. Now, the other interesting thing,
Bengals. Look at what's going on right now.
They're
screwing around,
right? But
I know they're winning, but still
they're winning, but not making the playoffs. But I wonder now, like those guys are based in the Northeast, right?
Yes.
So,
Well,
right
they're
now-
actually in Chicago.
Oh, are they? Okay,
yeah,
that's
it
good.
started in New York, but now the main office I think is Chicago.
Okay. So, but here's last 3 years for the Patriots: 8-9, 4-13, 4-13.
Yep.
And now they're restarting again with Vrabel. So 2 more years of losing seasons, and Robert Kraft has to sell his franchise.
I would love that. I'd love everything about that.
I think it'd be fun. Although
now Big Cat says he's a Chicago guy, but he grew up in Massachusetts, so he's also a
Yeah.
Patriots guy. So you know he's thinking about that.
yeah, and I just I like the idea of holding an ownership accountable. As they said, the other owners would never want to hold their owners accountable. And one thing that I can tell you
Unless because PFT commenter is a Redskins fan or a Commanders fan, and so he has the hatred for Daniel Snyder, and it's like the NFL owners will side with you until you get to a point where you piss off every other NFL owner and they hate you.
But here's the thing with a guy like Snyder and with a guy like Nutting, and this is like firsthand. If you're Jerry Jones, you want to keep a guy like Dan Snyder close because you're beating him twice a year,
yes,
right?
You are, yeah.
And that's the same thing with the Cardinals and the Pirates. Cardinals are more than happy to pay into revenue sharing and have Bob Nutting put it in his pocket if the way things were, if you're just clobbering them all the time. You're essentially buying wins. And there are some owners that allow you to do that. The Marlins have been that way for years, where they're allowing all the other owners to pay into revenue sharing. They put it in their pocket. The team's not good, and the other owners are the owners that want to win. They're essentially paying that revenue sharing money to buy wins.
If I was another NFL team, I would be excoriating the Bengals. It's like we figured this out already years ago. We figured this out. You pay the player what he gets for where he was drafted, and you're trying to figure out a bunch of exit money so that if he busts in 3 years, you can get out of the contract easier. That's what you're holding over a first round pick about. This is some old school, like 2004 level Bengals stuff. I thought the NFL had gotten so profitable that they weren't still going to mire themselves in the muck with decisions like this. And yet still in a league that literally prints money for their ownership group, you still have the Bengals being like, yeah, but we'd like to save $500,000 in case he sucks in 3 years.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he, by the way, he walked out of camp.
Damn right he did. Good for him.
Yeah. So the Bengals, they need to do a better job. Who do you have then? Let's start with this. Because of what the Bulls did in the 90s, do you count Jerry Reinsdorf as the worst? Because of what the Bulls are, but because of what the White Sox are. And the last time one of his teams won a title was 2005, the White Sox.
I mean, yeah, it's been 20 years of pretty poor ownership. He did have a pretty strong first 20 years, though, with the Bulls. And again, the White Sox were making runs. Now I think we know why the White Sox were making runs. The Pope, because apparently a future Pope was in the stands cheering them on in that 2005. Literally, the guy the man who is now Pope Leo was in the stands during one of the World Series games that they won. And so
made it onto TV.
And made it on the TV. I saw a tweet yesterday. It goes, you ever think about how the Pope might be walking around the Vatican being disappointed in Eloy Jimenez's development?
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's not completely out of the mind, because I'll do that too. I'll walk around my house and be like, God, how did that player not work out? And I just imagine a guy walking around the Vatican Palace, walking by the Swiss Guard and frescoes that are thousands of years old, painted by Michelangelo, and going, Juan Moncada really, he can be something, I think. Just that picture, I can't get over it. I love everything. Reinsdorf is bad, and the fact that it's two teams in the third largest market in the country is inexcusable, because it's not hard to own the town in Chicago. We saw that from the 90s. Get your things right, put together a competitive team, spend the money that actually has to be spent, and that market, that city will always pay you back.
Okay, so let's find it. We want you to weigh in here too. Do you consider Jerry Jones a bad owner? Because I think Jerry Jones tries to win. I think his heart is generally in the right place, even though he is about money. And by the way, he's a scoundrel. He's a terrible human being. But putting that aside, just in terms of him trying to win for his franchise, I think a lot of guys' hearts aren't in the right place. I think Jerry Jones legitimately wants to win.
Yes. But I mean, his heart's not in the right place. Again, it's no longer in his chest. That's how the Crypt Keeper ceremony is performed. They remove your heart, and then you get to live for 1,000 years, perpetually getting richer and richer and richer.
So,
I think my question would be: is he a good owner or is he a dedicated owner? Because he's undoubtedly one of those two things. And I do not think he's the other one. He's undoubtedly a dedicated owner, and there's a point where, yes, I would love that. But he's not a good owner because I mean, his son literally had to go across the table and keep the phone on the stand so that he didn't draft Johnny Manziel. It's bad owner.
Yeah. Okay. James Dolan, who we all thought, okay, so you've got Leon Rose, former head of CAA basketball, in charge of your organization. And I don't know if you've felt this way. I thought, okay, they stupidly fired Tom Thibodeau, but they've got somebody in place and they're going to have a coach. You don't fire Tom Thibodeau unless you have somebody good to go that's going to replace him that's already agreed to take this job.
Wait, I have the list for you. Ready?
Let's hear it.
Here's the list. It's every other current head coach in the NBA.
Unbelievable. So they've asked for Kidd. They asked for Billy Donovan. They asked for Udoka.
Want him?
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Donovan is not a good NBA coach in my opinion.
Yeah. So I think James Dolan is a terrible owner, and apparently he was the one that wanted Tom Thibodeau out of there.
And I love that you brought that up because I think it was on Pablo Torre Finds Out, who just is crushing it right now, and he had a guest on who was talking about how the Knicks got good while Dolan was paying attention to them building the Sphere in Vegas.
Okay.
And now that the Sphere is like a solidified thing with all these bookings and a residency show, he isn't as hands-on. And so as soon as he steps away from the Sphere, all of a sudden the Knicks are good. And the first chance he gets to finally put his fingerprints back on the Knicks, he fires Tom Thibodeau without any kind of plan. And honestly, I'm buying it. I'm here for this theory.
So, okay. Like I said,
he's a bad owner. Bad owner.
I like Michael Bidwill personally, but man, I have trouble getting past number one, the dysfunction on the field, but then the dysfunction in the office too, in the front office with the lawsuits and the people that are unhappy when they leave. There's just too much smoke there for there not to be a fire. And I just think not only is he not good at building a football team, but organizationally they're a mess too. One thing you could say about the Rams when they were here, what they did on the football side was horrific. And as we know, they were trying to lose, but they also had, in some ways, a very good organization philanthropically, and they had some really good business people. It wasn't completely dysfunctional like the Arizona Cardinals are.
Did we ever figure out if they indeed did wrongfully fire the coach and it was like a different person that they didn't know committed the assault? What the hell happened with that?
With the Arizona?
Yeah, with the Arizona Cardinals. Wasn't there that whole thing with the coach they fired for an assault, but then he claimed it wasn't him?
Yeah, I never saw the follow-up to that.
Interesting, because that was just part of the whirlwind of weirdness coming out of that story.
Smooth production. So, Randy, does that mean Kroenke is actually a good owner? I mean, look at the success of his teams. You don't hear issues within the organization of each team he owns. I've said this for a long time. The way that they handled leaving St. Louis was brilliant because they disassembled the team. Once he took over, and it was opening day of the 2010 baseball season when he announced that he was going to take full control. And you know what happened after 2010? They never got a left tackle for Sam Bradford. They never got him a wide receiver. What they did was brilliant. Now, he did say that he didn't get into this business to win trophies. I think that, and you look at what has happened from the standpoint of procuring talent there. I don't know how or why, but Les Snead has done a really good job of bringing young talent in there. So I think you have to separate. Is he a good owner for fans? No. There is a trust that an owner who buys a franchise should have in an organization, and that trust was not fulfilled here in St. Louis. So I think that we here in St. Louis, as fans of the St. Louis Rams, can legitimately say he was an awful owner, terrible, and a bad person too.
And to that point, Adam Welly talking about you never really know what you have, and and the grass isn't always greener. Talking about how people want the DeWitts to sell. To your point about 2010, I remember being so happy as a very young child, as a very young person, being like, "Good, I'm not gonna have to root for a team owned by Rush Limbaugh." Thank God that's not gonna have to be the case. Right. I remember how happy I was when that passed through, and I was like, "Good." Fine. A guy who's been owning the team since the 90s when they came to St. Louis, that seems like a great owner for the team. Fast forward. I have a personal hatred for a human being that will never die.
Yeah. There
you never know what's coming.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like with any sports owner, and I love the part of my take guys with their ideas, but there will never be anybody who, when Stan Kroenke has like, $500 million invested in the franchise. I don't think even that much. And it's worth north of $5 billion now. There's no way an owner of a franchise will ever agree to be forced to sell their franchise if they have 5 losing seasons in a row.
You're right about that. And while we're talking about ownership, I want to transfer right into another story, which I found really fascinating, Randy, which is we now know that there is a new people in ownership, which is, of course, the Irsay daughters are taking over the Colts. And something came out yesterday that if you were in Indianapolis, you probably already knew about, but obviously the overall people did not know about, which is one of the 3 daughters, I think, and it sounds like she's going to be the one kind of the most involved here. Carly Irsay Gordon wears a headset on the sideline, has a call sheet, and has also been photographed with an armband before.
Oh, good.
And she says, I need to be able to say, is this person full of BS? Do they even know what they're talking about? I would suggest it for anyone else that has to pay head coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake. It's such a complex organism, a football team, and how it operates. You could say that person ran that wrong route, learning, someone tagged the wrong receiver, and it wasn't really the receiver's fault. So where is the line between information and micromanagement, in your opinion?
As long as she's doing it to learn and isn't going and telling the coaches what plays to run, and as long as she's not on that headset talking, I think that's great. I would love to be able to do that. If I were,
that'd be amazing.
Huh?
I would love it too. Like one episode of like special NFL Network program where we get that feed, and obviously they edit out things they have to. God, I think that would kill.
Yeah, and so I would want an owner that wants to be that knowledgeable about the sport that they own. So the fact that she's going and trying to find out and trying to learn, I think that's a really smart move. And that quote right there, I would suggest it for anybody else that has to pay head coaches and GMs millions and millions of dollars. It helps you make a less expensive mistake. Like you said, I think that's very, very smart.
I would wear it if I was an owner for one reason. It's because I would just be waiting for that moment where someone goes, all right, coach, this is a crucial moment. What are you thinking here? And if there was ever that pause, like, nope, okay, we got to start thinking if we got to fire this guy, because I don't want my guy making crucial decisions being like, give me a second to think.
Well, and
I need that answer ready.
And she doesn't even have to be talking to ask that question. It can be that to hear the interaction among the staff during the course of the game is really valuable.
The defensive coordinator, what do we need to do in this moment, coach? Okay. Yeah. I like hearing that pause. It gives me some information as the owner that I maybe don't have if I'm not listening into it. I liked it. I when I saw it, I liked it. There was obviously a lot of idiots who were reacting poorly to it, but I thought it was fascinating, and I can't believe we haven't seen this from an owner before.
Well, and here's I would imagine a lot of those idiots are upset that it's actually a woman.
Oh, Randy, ding, 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 right on the nail on the head there, friend.
Yeah, that women can't know anything about football. You know, there's the St. Louis Slam is a women's football team here in St. Louis. It does really good things. And Kerry Davis was their coach one time.
Yes, he was.
And he Kerry from obviously University of Illinois, played with Peyton Manning with the Colts. He was on the Super Bowl champion Steelers team in 2008. And he was bringing the stuff that he had learned from those levels of football to these women. So you can't tell me that a woman can't learn football and probably know a lot more about football than a lot of men do.
Yeah, I love it. I would absolutely love it. And again, to your point, I want ownership that's tied into my team, even to this level.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think that's a fantastic thing.
Adam Willey's right. It seems like a cool thing that maybe fans would think is cool and pay to do. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
there's no reason that shouldn't be a special feed that we get. Like if I was the Colts, I'd go to somebody and be like, okay, let's get this, produce it, make sure we take out anything that would be, harmful because somebody's cursing or yelling or anything that would be that would have actual information. But to show the conversations that you can hear if you have a headset like that on an NFL Sunday on a sideline, I want to hear that so badly.
Me too. Okay, we want you to know that after the Cardinal game tonight, Card Central 365 is going to be on. We've got it before and after every St. Louis Cardinals game and every St. Louis sports game that's happening. So we want you to check it out tonight. Card Central 365. Did I hear you're doing that?
I am doing Card Central 365 this afternoon. You're going to hear me, the pregame. You're going to hear me, and I believe it's going to be Stephen Carey breaking down a little Cardinals baseball as they open the 4-game series against the Milwaukee Brewers. And I'm officially back to being cynical.
Why? Because of the 4-game
I'm just messing around.
Okay. Cynicism is
trade everyone, prepare for 2026, so on and so forth.
Okay. I want you to chat here. I want you to weigh in first, Matthew Rocchio. Today is We Went Blues Day. 6 years ago today, the St. Louis Blues won their first and only Stanley Cup. Where were you? What are your strongest memories of June 12th, 2019?
I was at a bar in Soulard, and I had been watching all the games at a couple different establishments in Soulard, that playoff run. Because I didn't have Bally Sports Midwest at the time, and so instead of pirating the games, I was just like, I'll just drive down to a Soulard bar and post up at the bar with like a couple beers and just watch the games every time. Because every time they'd win, it was the best feeling. I loved it because it was great being at like a local bar. Because as soon as they would win, and they had this locked in by the playoffs, as soon as they would win, bam. Like immediately Gloria hits after a W every time. It was a perfect atmosphere. So I'm at a bar, obviously packed. So we're outside watching it on TV there, and I just remember kind of like basking in it. I remember because I had kind of just been sitting in it for 2 periods because I felt when the first period happens the way it does, and they withstand the onslaught, and then they break through with the goal. In my head, I'm like, that's it. This is they're not coughing this one up. This is like wrap it up. This is we're going. This is winning. So for me, it was the entire second and third period. I just kind of sat there like, I'm actually going to see the Blues win a championship. This is going to be pretty freaking awesome. Yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, once Petro scored and I was at home, had some Emo's pizza, picked it up, St. Louis thing, right?
Good move.
Thank you. And once Petro scored in that final minute of the first period, like 8 seconds left in the first period, because Marchand, of all people, was leaving the ice and left it wide open for Petro to score against Tuukka Rask. Man, that's when I thought they would win. And so the Blues are up 2-0, and I've told you this before, but I was like on a chase. We have a chair that it goes out, and it's long, so it's a chase. And I have my right knee bent under my left leg, and I said I can't move, because if I move, Boston will score and we'll wind up losing this game. So I actually wound up having my leg fell asleep during the game, and I had trouble walking at the conclusion of Game 7, but I was thrilled. I was very, very happy.
It was incredible. Bill Down, I'm not a hockey fan, so no clue. How can you like St. Louis sports enough to be here every day, Bill, but not like St. Louis sports enough to say, oh, history is about to happen, I want to be a part of it? That's one thing I don't understand, because like for me, I'm such a fan of history and watching the way that people live moments. I can't not try to be a part of them. Like earlier this morning, they were on the morning show on LuinFo.com. They were surprised that I went down to one of the protests back in 2014. And I was like, yeah, I've been learning. I was just out of college. I've been learning about history. I wanted to go be a part of it. I wanted to go live a little bit. And so how can you not say, just living in St. Louis and knowing the history of the team and the fact that they lose Stanley Cups right out of the gate, and then they have the playoff runs, the record, and all the heartbreak. I don't know how you weren't just locked in on the history. Even if you didn't watch games 1 through 6, how did you not try to at least watch Game 7?
And with the overwhelming interest in any sports team that is winning,
I don't get that.
The one of the great things is jumping on a bandwagon and following along, and businesses get involved, and news stations get involved. You know, TV news directors notoriously hate sports until the team is in the playoffs, and then they start loving it. They become bandwagon jumpers too. Nothing wrong with becoming a bandwagon jumper and starting to like something and developing an interest in something, because there's a level of success. And one of the big things it did, if you were at the parade, if you weren't at the parade and you don't care, you don't know. But I am one of those people that believes, and I think any rational person would believe, that there's really only one galvanizing influence right now in the world, and that is a winning sports team. Nothing else will bring people together like winning sports teams do. And I thought that was one of the great things about the Blues winning the Stanley Cup 6 years ago. It was awesome.
It's funny that you said that. I was literally listening to a podcast the other day, and they go, you realize you can hate most sports fans, that you could like take a politician that they absolutely hate with every fiber of their being. But if you told them that politician was going to win Rookie of the Year for their favorite team, all of a sudden huge fans of that player.
Yeah.
It's just like, that's 100% true. I was like, I tested it and I was like, no, yeah. I'd immediately be like, no, I'm a huge fan of that player. I don't care what happened to him.
Yep. Adam Well, good question. If he never wins a cup, will McDavid go down as best player in any sport not to win a championship? I think that depending on what he does and how he finishes his career, I think I would still put Marino right towards the top there. I think we can agree that Barkley is right at the top of the list in basketball. Baseball, Barry Bonds never won.
That's insane. I for a second, it took me a minute. I always forget. I was like, did Hank Aaron win one? I forget he won one
57.
Early, 57.
Mm-hmm. I think 57 and 58. I think they won back.
No, just 57. Yeah, just 57 for Hank Aaron. Which that's also the year he won the MVP. But it was so early in his career. I mean, that was the fourth year of his career. He played 18 more years or 18 more years without winning a championship. But Barry Bonds is a great one. Also,
Ted
Williams. I was also going to say pure talent level to not win a championship. It's not over yet, but I mean, Barry Sanders, Mike Trout, I think would be good arguments for just pure talent level and never getting close.
Right. Yeah. And the Lions guys, Calvin Johnson too.
Yes.
Is right there. There's a lot. I think we would be having the exact same debate we're having right now and add Connor McDavid to it if he does wind up not winning a Stanley Cup. It would include him, Marino, Sanders, Bonds, Williams. Do you put Charles Barkley in that category? Because Charles Barkley was never the best guy in his sport. Marino was the best guy in his sport. Bonds was the best guy in his sport. Williams was the best guy in his sport. McDavid is the best guy in his sport. I don't think that we can put Charles Barkley in that category. Or Steve Nash.
Marino's, relative to like league history, Marino's sophomore campaign in the NFL is still one of the greatest things that you could ever see. Because I mean, relative to what every other person in his position was doing that year, it is unbelievable. If I need to break down like WAR for what he would have been like relative to every other quarterback in the league, because it has to be astronomical. Just what Marino was doing that season compared to the rest, it's completely different.
Yeah.
It's by the way, at a different level.
And multiple tweets or chats about Mike Trout, who will, you're right, Brian Ellison, he'll never win one.
No.
And is a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
But we used to compare Mike Trout and Albert Pujols.
Yes, we did.
And Mike Trout will not get close to what Albert Pujols did in his career.
That's because, I mean, I think we definitely had some bias because of how close we were to Albert Pujols, because he's one of those guys, and LeBron James is like this in a lot of ways too, where it's like, no matter how often you quantify how great he was, you're probably not doing enough to realize how great he was, which is just the fact that Pujols would just lock in for 2 or 3 months at a time with just 1,000 OPS runs, and just that would be his season essentially. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Trout probably won't get to 500 home runs. He's at 388. He has 979 RBIs. He won't get to that. 985 OPS, which is wonderful, but 297 batting average, which is right where Albert is. I just Mike Trout is going to go down as one of the certainly in his era, great. I wonder though, when you stack him up, is he going to go down as an all-time great?
No, and I think for him it's always going to be the kind of couching it how we are right now, which is one of the most talented pure baseball players ever. But injuries bite him in the ass. Not having any kind of winning team around him bites him in the ass. And so, yeah, I don't. He'll always be couched that way. He'll always kind of be, he'll just be Barry Sanders. He's going to be Barry Sanders, where we will always talk about how pure talent may be one of the greatest ever, but never sniffed that level because of what he couldn't do in a team sport.
And in our last couple of minutes here, let's get a better comp, because Sanders at least posted all the time. He played all the time.
That's true.
Who was taken away, was a great player, but was taken away because of injury. And I suppose we could say Terrell Davis, but at least he won a couple of Super Bowls.
Is Bo Jackson?
Bo Jackson would be good. He was kind of a shooting star there.
But he also died. I mean, it's not like the Raiders were completely incompetent when he was there. He kind of dodged some potentially good years with them.
What about Griffey? Is Griffey a good comp for Trout?
I just think no, because Griffey defined a generation. Like there was an entire generation of kids right around my age who he defined their baseball fandom. Even though that they were in St. Louis and they were still Albert Pujols, still it was, I want to wear my hat like I want to wear my hat like Griffey. Griffey touched a cultural way, because also if you want to go other sports, because like Griffey and Iverson are on a different path because what they mean culturally, despite the fact that they never won championships and are actually pretty good candidates for this discussion, but because of their ability to change culture, it's a little different.
Grant Hill is another guy.
God, yeah.
Injuries robbed us of one of the all-time greats in
Grant Hill's a really good answer. Derrick Rose wins youngest player to ever win an MVP in the NBA, and then completely everything gets sapped from him. I mean, Derrick Rose could have had an unbelievable career, and we never will know. I mean, and number one overall pick, so you could argue he has the hype that a guy like Mike Trout has as well. Number one overall pick, youngest MVP, Derrick Rose. Okay, and your mama's going with Derrick Rose as well.
Good call.
I'm also I've stumbled upon one I really like. Oh, D Rose, you mama put it way up here. Sorry about that.
Yep. And ellipsis. You think Albert Pujols is going to be unanimous or not? Simply because there's only one player that is a unanimous Hall of Famer, I'm going to say no.
You can't. It's like I know there's other players you can say it to, but you cannot be a sane individual who should have responsibility for your finational decisions if you do not say that Albert Pujols is a Hall of Famer. You can't, you literally cannot. If that is, if somebody says no and leaves them off their ballot, that needs to be the time that you go, yeah, we should probably start taking votes away from people. And that person needs to have their vote ripped away immediately.
Jeter is the same. Hey, Sports Central, STL Sports Central postgame shows brought to you in part by Hot Shots. And Hot Shots wants you to know that as they celebrate their 35th birthday, you need to stop by. They've got all kinds of great food and drink at Hot Shots. They've got darts. They've got all kinds of pool tables at their facilities at each of their locations. And we want to congratulate Hot Shots on 35 years at STL Sports Central, St. Louis home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com. Check out all of our social media outlets at STL Sports Central, and we've got a new set of numbers coming out, including a little debate about the number 12. So that's pretty cool. We'll we've got that up for you, and all of our social media accounts are a lot of fun. You want to check out all of them. Subscribe to our Sports Central STL newsletter. Like this video. Follow us on all the socials at STL Sports Central.
Can't wait to guys get to the 50s. I have a lot of strong thoughts on why Pisatina E. Samoa is the greatest 50 in St. Louis history.
Oh, Pisa was one of the people when Chris Duncan was first diagnosed with cancer. He was one of the first people that we brought in as a guy to audition for the third seat in the Fast Lane.
There's something about being
a nice guy. Pisa.
There's about being like a fan of a very average team, in that you find these players when you're a kid and you just glom onto them. And I'll tell you this right now, I was obsessed with Pisatina E. Samoa. First of all,
to say that, I mean, here's a guy that's putting him ahead of Adam Wainwright and Jordan Binnington.
Oh, sure. If you just want to throw out those names and make it easy, fine. How many times did they have multiple interceptions in an NFL season? That's right, 0 times.
What number was linebacker Robert Thomas? Was he
54?
Okay. Did they have a
UCLA, the product of UCLA and the bane of my existence in the early 2000s? 55. What? It's even worse.
Oh, Ryan Tucker was 50.
Ryan Tucker was 50.
Happy birthday, Ryan Tucker. Ryan Tucker turning 50 today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I know. I'm being facetious. I just there was players that I was like, you mentioned number 24 that should be in the
Ron
debate.
Bartel.
I loved Ron Bartel. You could not there was a point in my life where every time I loaded up Madden, I would do a fantasy draft, and I would make sure that my free safety was going to be the incredible, the undeniable Oshiamogo Otogwe, also OJ Otogwe. Ron Bartel was going to be one of my cornerbacks. I was going to find a way to get Pisatino Samoa as one of my linebackers. Like, I was making these things happen every time I started up Madden. I loved these players. Victor Adianju, great depth defensive end.
Okay, you going your guy Ron Bartel or Trung candidate? Who's your 24?
I'm taking Ron Bartel. He was a damn solid NFL cornerback for a number of years. I know people are going to say like, wow, you are legitimately like messed up in the head if you're trying to argue Ron Bartel, but 6'1", 200 pounds, good press corner, solid man guy, good zone guy as well. Multiple seasons in the NFL with multiple picks in a row. I love Ron Bartel.
By the way, Super Bowl champion Rams, Ron Carpenter, number 24, a special teams ace and a really friendly guy. All right, that's it for the Randy Karraker Show. Thank you, Matthew Rocchio. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Randy.
Great job by Matthew all the time. And don't forget, check out all the socials, and we will see you tomorrow at 10:02 here on the Randy Karraker Show.